Greetings all, it's March 21st, and now we're in Luke chapter 4. And there's a bit of a contrast here in Luke 4 from where we were yesterday. Yesterday we were talking about Jesus being in Nazareth and being rejected by the people there in the synagogue as he taught. But now he's going back down to Capernaum on the northern edge of the Sea of Galilee. And seems like, at least at the initial part of it, they're accepting what he has to say. They're impressed by his authority. He's teaching in a lot of different places. Doesn't seem like there's a lot of rejection at the beginning part of his time there. We also have the interaction between Jesus and Simon's mother just outside of the synagogue there in Capernaum, and he goes in and heals her of this fever that she has. And it says at sunset the people brought to Jesus all who had various kinds of sickness, and laying his hands on each one, he healed them. I think I've mentioned The Chosen before, and they kind of portray this as a long day in Jesus' life, where there are a lot of people coming and he's exhausted at the end of the day. And I can see that that would be the case, that Jesus was compassionate on all those who were coming, and there were many people, I'm sure, who wanted to see him as well. Then later on, he pulls up in a boat outside of on the Sea of Galilee there, and he sees the crowds of people, and he pulls off the shore a little bit in a boat and speaks to them from there. And there's a beautiful chapel church at Magdala, and it's a place that is called Duc et Altum, which means in Latin put out into the deep, which is what Jesus says to his disciples after he's done speaking to the people. He tells them to put out into the deep so that they can catch some more fish out there. Peter tries to argue with him and says that they've been fishing all night and haven't been able to catch anything, but Jesus, he says, I'll do what you've asked anyway. And so they pull out, and of course, they catch a large amount of fish there. And I think it's interesting, obviously, what Jesus might be saying to them is, if you trust me, then we will find great success here in calling people, just as I told you, to be fishers of men. We're gonna call people in just like I'm catching fish here. And he's, I think, giving them eyes to see that there's a huge harvest of people who are needing to hear the word and wanting to hear and responding to it in faith and obedience. And that's kind of a high point in Jesus' ministry at the beginning of that time in Capernaum around the Sea of Galilee. It's going to be 3 years there, and we know that he's going to be eventually rejected there as well. He's going to do a lot of miracles. He's going to do a lot of teaching. This is going to be his base of operations, but it says here that he's in all the synagogues in that region as well. So you can imagine him traveling around diligently, speaking to as many people as he can find, whether those are large groups out on the hillsides or smaller groups in gatherings in the synagogues too. So Jesus is very much at work, doing what he is called to do, which is teaching and preaching and doing miracles, healing people, making the gospel available to as many people as possible at this point. So I think it's a fun little place in the Gospels here as we get to chapter 4 of Luke.